Good morning. Today is Saturday, March 16, 2024, and this is our daily bread. The title is Learning Wisdom and Integrity. It's from Judges chapter 11, verses 29 to 40, and the key verses are 30 and 31. It says, "And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord. If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering." Then the Spirit of the Lord came on Jephthah. He crossed Gilead and Manasseh, passed through Mizpah of Gilead, and from there he advanced against the Ammonites. And Jephthah made a vow to the Lord. "If you give the Ammonites into my hands, whatever comes out of the door of my house to meet me when I return in triumph from the Ammonites will be the Lord's, and I will sacrifice it as a burnt offering." Then Jephthah went over to fight the Ammonites, and the Lord gave them into his hands. He devastated 20 towns from Aroer to the vicinity of Minnith, as far as Abel Keramim. Thus Israel subdued Ammon. When Jephthah returned to his home in Mizpah, who should come out to meet him but his daughter, dancing to the sound of timbrels? She was an only child. Except for her, he had neither son nor daughter. When he saw her, he tore his clothes and cried, "Oh no, my daughter, you have brought me down, and I am devastated. I have made a vow to the Lord that I cannot break." "My father," she replied, "you have given your word to the Lord. Do to me just as you promised, now that the Lord has avenged you of your enemies, the Ammonites." "But grant me this one request," she said. "Give me 2 months to roam the hills and weep with my friends, because I will never marry." "You may go," he said. And he let her go for 2 months. She and her friends went into the hills and wept because she would never marry. After the 2 months, she returned to her father, and he did to her as he had vowed, and she was a virgin. From this comes the Israelite tradition that each year the young women of Israel go out for 4 days to commemorate the daughter of Jephthah the Gileadite. Daily bread. First, a hasty promise to a sovereign God. Jephthah was filled with God's Spirit, but he made an unwise decision when his emotion got the better of him. He promised to sacrifice the first thing that came out of his door if he won the battle, and unfortunately, it turned out to be his daughter. Sometimes we also make hasty and emotional promises. We say, "God, I'll go to church every Sunday if you help me pass this math test." It's a silly example, but sometimes we try to make deals with God, like some kind of spiritual bargaining. We think that if we're good, we read our Bible, pray, are kind to others, that means God has to bless us with what we want. But God doesn't work like a vending machine, and faith is not transactional. Instead of trying to persuade God to give us what we want, we should be wise and line up our will with God's will. Second, being men and women of our word. Jephthah kept his vow, even though it was difficult. He understood the importance of following through on his promise to God. In contrast, sometimes we make empty promises to people and especially to God. We say we'll spend time with God every day, invite someone to church, and strive to live as better Christians. But we fail to follow through. Why? Because our words are often driven by emotion. For example, when we hear a convicting message on Sunday, we're so determined to make a change in our lives. But when Monday morning comes, our desire is gone. We need to examine what our words and actions reveal about us. Do they demonstrate that we are trustworthy and honorable, or emotional and impulsive? Let's strive to be good representatives of Christ and be men and women of integrity by keeping our promises. Let's pray. Lord, strengthen me to become a wise and trustworthy person. I want to be a person of integrity so that my promises reflect my commitment to you. One word, be a Christian with integrity.